Let's do this. Welcome to the shifter, everybody. I'm lagging like crazy, but I'm also Will.
And I'm Matt. Will, we had some news this week, didn't we? Before we get
Yeah,
into
we
it.
yeah, we did. So obviously, typically we'd either run right into the sponsors or go right into the race recap, but Martin Truex Jr. is calling it quits after this year. We might have said this on the show, or this might have just been in a conversation, but I think I said that for the first time in a couple of years, I was actually convinced that he was not retiring. But no, after the 2024 Cup season, Martin Truex Jr. is done.
Exactly. You could say that he is going to lag out of the field, like my partner may lag out of this meeting. But but no, Martin Truex, just great career. Last DEI driver. Does full time in the field. I know you get Eric Almirola in the Xfinity Series, which that is a whole entire weird thing that we'll have to talk about. What's going on with Eric Almirola and JGR whenever the actual news comes out, because there's been a lot of
Maybe its
crazy
own
rumors there.
video.
Yeah, but there's been a lot of crazy rumors there, and it may involve your driver, but we're not going to get into that right now. So, but Martin Truex Jr., 2017 champion, one of the greatest underdog stories, guys. He has over 30 wins in the NASCAR Cup Series. He only had 2 wins starting off the 2015 season. So, just one of the best career resurgences of all time. Went from his career being over and him labeled a NASCAR bust to a NASCAR Hall of Famer. So, very important driver in history.
Yeah, I mean, we talked on the show, I believe, about how underrated Michael McDowell has been, and how a lot of his success has come from the fact that he just has stuck around long enough, and now he's finding good equipment and he's back into wins this and the third. But like Martin Truex Jr., obviously one of the more highly touted prospects in NASCAR history, but it obviously just out of the gate did not go as anyone would have predicted, because nobody would have predicted that DEI would go in the direction that it did. Obviously, then he would have his tenure with Michael Waltrip Racing.
Very stable situation.
Yeah, very, very stable situation. But anyway, obviously, as that went away, he was pretty much left with a front row and that team out in Denver, Colorado. And I mean, it's got to be, it's, I mean, I think the front row motorsport story is on par with the underdog story of, like Alan Kulwicki. Uh, and that would have been totally impossible without Martin Truex Jr. Um, Absolutely just an incredible back half of his career. And I think he's a slam dunk Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah, if he's not first ballot, there's a problem. But
Yeah,
in the
Martin
system.
Truex Jr. is absolutely first ballot. I don't know if NASCAR has like a unanimous thing, but he should be unanimous.
Jimmy Johnson wasn't unanimous, so I don't think
Jimmy
Truex.
Johnson wasn't. Oh, that's right. Did it? Did they ever say who didn't vote for him?
I think there was one. I actually think it might be Jeff Gordon that wasn't unanimous. It's either the other way around, but I think Jeff Gordon is the only unanimous. Dale Earnhardt was not unanimous either.
That
Which is
is,
speaking of an Earnhardt did discover Martin Truex. That's why he's back here, because I like this photo. But
yeah. I say
but
unanimous. Like, I know unanimous Hall of Famer is a very you know, coveted thing in sports, but I feel like in NASCAR it's more cut and dry. I mean, it's just he is a Hall of Famer. You
and
know.
you know what, guys? Haven't done it in a long time. I was waiting for a race win, but one more. Well, not one more time, because he's gonna
Yeah,
win a
well,
race
he's
this
gonna
year.
win. He will win.
This is the Matt guarantee on that. Still my pick for the championship, by the way. I think I forgot about that. But Truex so sexy, baby. Yeah.
I'm really gonna miss Martin. Just again, the last remnants of DEI. And I mean, we really are seeing the old guard go away. It just sucks, but
Denny Hamlin will be
uh,
the oldest active NASCAR driver next year.
that's so weird. But that
Well,
being
and
said,
Jimmy
oh
Johnson. Boom confetti, baby. Boom crash wall. But
yeah,
oh
we're
no,
gonna move on from that.
guys, Jimmy Johnson will be in the brickyard, so we'll have a caution. You ready for
Anyway,
the?
that being said, no, whatever offensive thing you were gonna say about Jimmy Johnson, I don't want to hear it.
Okay, let's get into the sponsors in the race, because guys, we had a good short track race, so we got something good to talk about. But all right, sponsors, really quickly. Go subscribe to Abri Casso. She did our logo. It looks amazing. If Will puts it in the thumbnail.
Oh no.
He put it in the thumbnail, guys. He's been great with it. Also, the thumbnails have gotten a lot better, by the way. They've been funny the last few weeks. Let's see if he can stay on his roll. But Milan's show, go watch it if you haven't watched it already on her YouTube channel. Go buy Terrell's clothes because as Will says, he wants your money. Yeah, at Grateful Studios, I was about to fumble the hell out of that. Go watch Ant's YouTube channel and go watch Ken's YouTube channel. And I know it's important days to a lot of people. We are recording this and it will probably come out on Juneteenth. So happy Juneteenth, everybody. And let's get into the race. All right.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say actually about Juneteenth is, wow, a lot of people sure get upset about celebrating the day that slavery ended, don't they?
Yeah, I guess you can see where those people's values are, but those people suck.
Hmm.
So it's an important day for a lot of people, and it should be celebrated. And yes, we should get a day off. Everybody's like, "Oh, so we're not getting into a political debate on this, but happy Juneteenth to everybody. Important day for a lot of people."
Slavery ending isn't a political issue. If you think it is, nah, we'll have other conversations. That being said, let's get into the race here at Iowa. And yeah, we finally had a good short track race.
You
I'm
always just
not
stumble
shocked by it
over
at
the
all.
lower series, man, and people want to hear. A lot of people, this is their only avenue into the sport. You're sneezing. Connor Zilich won the ARCA race. He's gone now, and William Salawatch finished in second. No truck race this week. Will's favorite series. There was no truck race. Sorry, Will. And winning the NASCAR Xfinity race, which was also a pretty good race despite all the tire failures. Sam Mayer and Riley Herbst had a heated battle, and it led Sam Mayer to victory. Are you ready for me to get into the Cup race, or did you want to say something after you forgot your allergies? You're lagging so bad, man. I don't know what the hell. You want me to start it?
Cup race.
All right, guys. This is the first ever Cup race at Iowa. Everybody's really worried because they had tire issues all week in practice. 5 drivers blew tires in a 50-minute practice session. And also, with this being the first race here, the short track package has been bad lately, so it did suck because it did look like Iowa wasn't going to get their real shot. And also, we mentioned this last week on the show, but they only repaved half the track, so everybody thought that this was going to be a dumpster fire of the race, but we got a really good surprise. Starting on pole was Kyle Larson. No surprise, 4th pole of the season. But here we go. So starting off this race, Kyle Larson would rocket out to a lead, but on lap 4, sponsored by the University of Iowa, Corey LaJoie would go for a spin after a Spire on Spire crime. They all got together, which led to a Corey LaJoie spin, but he did an excellent job recovering and keeping it out of the wall. It was really cool because Caitlin Clark actually did some promos for that car this weekend. But everybody got really scared. At least I did watching the broadcast when I saw that early caution because I thought, oh, God, we're having a tire failure on lap 4. But it was just a spin out. We would have our first tire failure of the day on lap 51 when A.J. Allmendinger for the second straight day would take a hard hit into the turn 1 wall. Just kind of a miserable season from Allmendinger on the Xfinity and the Cup side. Colleague needs to get their stuff together quickly, or there will not be a colleague.
Yeah, colleague is I know this is they're fumbling a major bag here. I mean, they have had a wealth of talent for a few years now, and we're trying to do pretty good things. It's an absolute shame the direction that they've gone this year.
It really is. A lot of promise out of that team a couple years ago, but this just kind of sucks. Hopefully they can bounce back next year or the second half of this year. But now this caution would lead to what we saw all day, strategy, a lot of guys flipping the field, and you would see 2 guys start this off pretty early on lap 51. And at this time, it was looked at as a huge risk when Daniel Suarez and Brad Keselowski decided to stay out. This would allow, through all the ruckus on the restart, this would allow Ryan Blaney to get around Kyle Larson and lead his first laps of the day and eventually win the stage. But the gamble did pay off for Daniel Suarez and Brad Keselowski as Daniel Suarez would get a top 5 stage finish. Very important for that team who needs to build momentum desperately. And Brad Keselowski would finish 8th in this stage. So the gamble really did pay off here. But we'll get into this second stage now. Everybody would come down. Everybody would pit. So Ryan Blaney would again take the lead here, assume the lead of the race. But again, we would have a quick caution on the same lap of the stage. Lap 4 when John Hunter Nemechek, I gotta tell you, man. It's just ridiculous. It's about what really probably hurt Noah Gragson was the lack of respect, because it's just ridiculous. Because sorry, Dante told me to do that because he watched Dirty Work. But John Hunter Nemechek just drove
ridiculous.
John Hunter Nemechek.
Ridiculous. Sorry, I'm done.
John Hunter Nemechek just drove in there like Will's favorite crash of the season at Phoenix. Remember the Joey Logano wreck? With John Hunter
I
Nemechek.
hate you. Yeah, I do. That's one of the most egregious things of this year. He just forgot he had a brake pedal. Oh
Well,
my
he did it
God.
again. He did it again. And
Oh
he
my
slammed
God.
into Noah Gragson and Ty Gibbs. But actually, probably the greatest save of the season happened. NASCAR got trigger happy with that caution because Noah Gragson four-wheel slid through the turn and saved it. But NASCAR was a little trigger happy. But then we get into the stage again. There's some guys that stay out here, flips the field a little bit again, but eventually you get your front runners, Kyle Larson and Ryan Blaney. Kyle Larson reassumes the lead of the race, and he gets out to about a 2 or 3 second lead. And for the first time all day, we have green flag pit stops. And Iowa is actually a very tricky pit road to enter, but really nobody up front really messed that up. Some of the guys in the back did, like Kaz Gralla. I know did. Sorry, Kaz Gralla, but you got mentioned on the show this week, so you can be happy.
Yeah, and real quick, by the way, just talking about little things like pit road entry. We talk a lot about creating like margin of error in these races. I think even something as simple as like a pit road, that's not easy to enter, like even that, we could use more of. Obviously, I'd just rather the cars be difficult to drive, but hey, we'll take what we can get, you know?
They were difficult to drive in this race. They were. That's what made the race good. So then through this though, but some guys, due to this constant tire failures all week, there was a lot of anxiety about pitting because you knew that there could be a caution at the drop of the hat. So a couple guys stayed out. Top 3 guys, Brad Keselowski, Bubba Wallace, and Ricky Stenhouse ran this long. And then to probably the only real controversy of this race, there was a lot of blown tires during this, but nobody hit the wall. There was Eric Jones was a big one. His tire almost fell off in the middle of the track. He was very slow for about a lap. NASCAR didn't throw it. But about 20 laps later, probably to create chaos, Daniel Hemrick did not blow a tire. He just slammed the wall coming off the corner and continued. But NASCAR would throw the caution, allowing Brad Keselowski, Bubba Wallace, and Ricky Stenhouse to get the break of a lifetime this week and put them at the front of the field and put all the other guys in the middle of the field. But on the restart, actually, wait, I want to talk about the strategy play of the week right here. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. made the strategy play of the week by staying out when everybody thought he was going to pit, because how the wave around works is if you stay out as a lap car, you can get your lap back only if the leader pits, but you have to be ahead of the car that would assume the lead. And by Ricky Stenhouse staying out, he would trap half the field a lap down. They could not take the wave around, including Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs, and Chase Briscoe, big guys that were running in the top 10 early in this race, and they never recovered from this. They were able to get their lap back, but with how hard it is to pass on these short tracks, they were not able to even get back up into the top 15 all day. So what a great move by Ricky Stenhouse, and this would eventually lead to a top 5 finish because the tires were able to hang on for the last 20 laps of this run, farthest anybody going on tires the entire week. So attaboy to Mike Kelly and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for this call, but it would not win them the stage. They would get stage points though. But Kyle Larson would rocket to the front and win this race, and then the caution at the stage ends would lead us into our final stage where, again, the field was flipped, where Chris Buescher would assume the lead of the race, staying out. Todd Gilliland would stay out, restarting in second. And Brad Keselowski, not to be left out of the strategy party at any point in time, as Will knows, we all know, being an early 2010s NASCAR fan. Brad Keselowski.
Yeah, you specifically as a junior fan.
We don't talk about Kansas in 2011.
It's a good race.
It's a great race. Brad Keselowski would restart in third, and then after that, all the heavy hitters would start behind them, the Kyle Larson and Ryan Blaney, except on this restart, again, we'd have another early caution when Kyle Larson would make it 3 wide on the restart, trying to get some ground in front of Ryan Blaney. Him and Daniel Suarez would make contact. A lot of people blaming Daniel Suarez. In my opinion, it's just a racing incident. Kyle Larson being a little aggressive on the restart. Kyle Larson would then come back up the track into Denny Hamlin, essentially ending both of their days. They would not DNF. Kyle Larson would go several laps down. Denny Hamlin, who kind of struggled with his car all day, he also called a break with that Daniel Hemrick caution that put him in the top 10. He would kind of just ride around in about 30th the rest of the day. And this actually would be a big break for a Stewart-Haas racing driver who would get through the crash faster than anyone else and put him on the front row. Josh Berry, who had been running in the top 5 to top 10 all day. And then on the ensuing restart, he would take off ahead of Chris Buescher and take the lead of this race and drive out to a 3-second advantage. And you're thinking, we're less than 100 laps to go. Is this the day for Stewart-Haas Racing to get that magical win, get a driver in the playoffs? Until Chris Buescher would blow a tire and slam the wall, bringing out the caution. And then the Penske boys would play some strategy of their own. Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano would take 2 tires to get out in front of the field, also joining them in third place. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Mike Kelly make another excellent call to take 2 tires and come out in third. And the Ford crew would take 4 tires, and not only would they fall behind those 3 guys, they would fall behind the 2 Hendrick Motorsport Chevys of William Byron and Chase Elliott, essentially ending Josh Berry's bid for the win. So then,
and wait, real quick, just to touch on Ricky Stenhouse, because I mean, this is probably the best performance we've seen out of him at a non-blade track in years. And I say him, his team. And I can't remember if this was said on the broadcast, if maybe this was post-race. But a lot was said about how Ricky was just kind of having fun because I guess it just reminded him of
he's the
his
winningest driver
Nationwide
in the
Series
history of
days.
Iowa Motor Speedway. He won 3 straight races there. A win at Iowa Speedway saved his career because he was about to be released from Roush Racing very early on in his career. He went on to win the championship that year. Then obviously later that year was the iconic finish with Carl Edwards, and then he won the next race there next year. But so 3 straight wins.
So that being said, wow, talking over me. Go. It's your turn.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was also one of the more popular bets in Vegas this weekend for a top 10 because of those facts. I'm not a big bettor, but I just know that was like a big thing. A lot of people made a lot of money because of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. this weekend. But so this was the race right here. Could the 2 Hendrick Motorsport Chevys get through the field fast enough on their 4 tires to get to Ryan Blaney's 2 tires before the tires equaled out? And on the restart, actually a shocker happened because I told you earlier in the week, I thought Joey Logano was going to win this race. And when he got on the front row, I thought Joey Logano had a shot. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr. actually flew around Joey Logano on the restart, putting him in second by Ryan Blaney. And for Ryan Blaney fans right here, this is probably what won him the race. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. made it tough on those 2 Hendrick Chevys to get around him.
Yep.
And they would finally get around him. But then in the middle of this run, we did get a green flag run to the finish, but there was some tire failures I want to touch on. It was kind of similar to the end of stage 2. Eric Jones blew another tire, did not hit the wall. Just a miserable season for Legacy Motor Club again. God, I hope they get it figured out. Michael McDowell would sadly lose another top 10 run due to a tire going down. And then Chase Briscoe and Tyler Reddick would both lose tires and lose whatever they had left of their day. And this pretty much puts Chase Briscoe in a must-win, in my opinion. And another driver, probably the biggest incident of stage 3 that is going to be in probably a must-win now. Kyle Busch, again, 3rd straight week, top 10 finish taken away due to a mechanical failure. Something broke in the rear of the car. They fixed it, and then the power steering line got cut when they got back out. It ended their day. And me and my dad were talking about this. Kyle Busch should be like well above the cut line. He should have finished probably about 7th at Gateway, 4th at Sonoma, and probably about 7th here because that's where he was running at Iowa. He has hemorrhaged over 60 points in the last 3 weeks of racing. He should be in the 15th spot, well ahead of Bubba Wallace, but instead he's 31 points behind the cut line of Bubba Wallace and probably putting himself in a must-win situation just with the inconsistency of that team. But also some very interesting comments, if you want to touch on that later, that Kyle Busch made this weekend. But we'll talk about that later if we can talk about that on this show. But so it was a battle through lap traffic. After that, you have the Hendrick Motorsport Chevys who were strong on the long run all day. William Byron and Chase Elliott chasing down to the defending champ Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney doesn't have a win. You guys remember Gateway. He should already have one. But as we're coming to about 10 to go, the 2 Hendrick Motorsport Chevys both together kind of running nose to tail, both cut it within half a second. But then the 12 car turned the afterburners on and he ran away from the Hendrick Motorsport Chevys. And guys, the champ is here. The champ is back. The champ will be in the playoffs. Ryan Blaney would win at the inaugural race at Iowa in front of 80 family and friends because it is a very important racetrack to the Blaney family due to his mom's side being from Iowa, followed by in 2nd place, William Byron, a good momentum builder for that team. 3rd place, Chase Elliott, who would take the regular season points lead. 4th place, Christopher Bell. 5th place, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 2nd top 5 of the season, 1st since Atlanta. In 6th place, we would have Joey Logano, very important, only 6 points out of the playoffs now behind the cut line, which is Bubba Wallace, who Bubba Wallace got saved by his stage points in stage 2. He finished 17th. In 7th place was Josh Berry. Great run for that team again. I'm telling you guys, I know Wills feels differently to this. I know my dad feels differently to this. If a Stuart Haas car wins, it's going to be Josh Berry. It will not be any of the other 3, and I will stand on that. 8th place finish goes to Alex Bowman. 10th top 10 of the season, by the way. Alex Bowman is tied for the most top 10s in the series. 9th place finish for, give me a second. Whoa. Daniel Suarez. 10th place was Brad Keselowski. Their strategies did pay off. I'm going to turn it over to Will now. We had an excellent race. Will, what do you want to talk about, bud?
All right, let's get after it. First off, I'll just make a slight mention of this. Daniel Suarez, dual citizenship now. I saw some people upset that Trackhouse made a big deal of it. I think that's silly. Why would they not post their driver achieving something in their personal life? I think that's a really cool thing. So that being said, awesome for Daniel Suarez and awesome getting a top 10 for Daniel Suarez. That being said, now I'll talk about the winner of the race, Ryan Blaney, because there's never going to be a period in time where you're totally down on Ryan Blaney. He's an awesome race car driver, and I mean he's won a championship by this point. But I do feel like I mean I think I want to say most of his seasons in the 12 car, there has been a stretch of time where you kind of sit there, you go, okay, like well, what are we doing here? But just as I started to feel that way about him, where I'm like, okay, Ryan. Well, obviously, probably should have won a Gateway. Now wins in not dominant fashion at Iowa, but fairly handedly. I mean,
Led 200
didn't
laps.
he lead the most laps? Yeah, he led. I was gonna say,
The other interesting stat. This is the first Cup race at Iowa, I know, but Brian Blaney had actually already won a truck and Xfinity race here, so he is the first person in the history of this track to win a truck, Xfinity, and Cup race at Iowa.
so Ryan Blaney now with the Triple Crown at Iowa. Speaking of Triple Crown, Marcelo Zuna probably going to win that in the NL, and he should absolutely be the All-Star game starter for the NL. But that is a
Wrong
completely
show,
different topic.
bozo. Sorry,
Hey, I just
sorry.
want to make my stance known. But that being
Ridiculous.
said, awesome for Ryan Blaney. And I think also this could be that point where I know we talk about this with a lot of different guys. Like we talked about like, oh, once Ty Gibbs wins his first, he's gonna win a lot. But typically like when Ryan Blaney wins one, there's probably a couple more coming this season, maybe even still in the regular season. But I kind of want to talk about the cut line because typically when we talk, you mentioned Kyle Busch is in a must-win scenario, and typically when we talk about guys being in must-wins, because like obviously they can't point their way in, but we have a pretty tight cut line battle, and I don't think any of those drivers around there think they don't have to win. Like I would, even though like I would say like what 16, 17, 18, and 19, like they're all under a pretty solid umbrella, maybe 16, 17, 18.
And I'm most worried about the guy in 16th and the guy in 19th because I just haven't seen winning speed out of either of them. I've seen winning speed out of Joey Logano and Kyle Busch at certain points this season. So I'm worried if I'm on the 23 or the 14 team more than the 22 and the 8. As crazy as that sounds.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's crazy. Because you just talked about Kyle Busch. There have been so many of these races where he like again he should be so far above the cut line. Kyle Busch can win a race. Never, ever, ever count out Kyle Busch. And same with Joey Logano. Joey Logano, in my opinion, has come on nicely in the last few weeks. And I don't want to outright predict him to win a race, but I mean, if you're making me pick, will he win? Yes or no? My answer is yes. It's Joey Logano. And that being said, talk about Chase Briscoe for a second. Yeah, I haven't really seen winning speed out of Chase Briscoe, but that doesn't obviously. I know you're not saying that he can't win. We just haven't seen it. Um, now we talk about that guy in 16th. Obviously, my favorite driver, Will Wallace. I don't think he's going to make the playoffs.
I hope he does. I haven't said it on the show outwardly because I don't want to disrespect you or Dante, but the team's hitting. The team is taking a step back. Have one top 10 in the last. They get stage all they want, but you got to start finishing some of these races. And I think if they do make the playoffs, they're an automatic first round exit. Right?
Yeah. I don't. It's one of those situations where there isn't one particular aspect of the team that is even dragging them down because we go back to what 22, where Bubba himself was performing, in my opinion, very well, but obviously the team around him was just god awful. And we saw a little bit of that last year. We saw some of that inconsistency this year. To be honest with you, like Bubba's been fairly inconsistent speed wise, and especially like am I crazy for feeling like the last month or so has felt just down? Like, coming. So, what were you gonna say?
The only three races I'm not counting plate races here. The only three races that I can outwardly say that Bubba Wallace has had top 5 feet speed the entire season, and one of those races he did fish Martinsville. Martinsville, I thought outwardly one of 2 cars that could beat the Hinder car that day.
Yeah.
And if Richmond, if the spin with Kyle Larson doesn't happen, he probably finishes about 3rd or 4th that day. And then he was very good at Charlotte. He got kind of screwed over by the rain delay because they made a bad adjustment, but I think he would have ran back into the top five that day.
Yeah, oof, just rough. And I will say, this is a team that for the last few years has operated on the margin. It actually, obviously, because these are the drivers that I've been hyper fixated on, it does remind me of the experience being a fan of Matt Benedetto, where you have to operate within the margins, and you can't necessarily bank on being, you know, a winner. You kind of have to string together those top tens. And early on in the season, they were doing a great job of that, and they were showing the winning speed, but they haven't really done either. It feels like every other week, if not more often than that, we're sitting back there in the 15 to 20 range, and you're not going to make the playoffs doing that in this cut line situation. We've already had so many, like, I think I look at Daniel Suarez, right? If Daniel Suarez doesn't win Atlanta, and who's the I'm
Austin Cindric.
Austin Cindric. Yeah, Daniel Suarez and Austin Cindric. If those guys don't win, yeah, you're probably like a pretty safe
You're
15
comfortable.
or 16. Yeah, but those guys did win, and now we have guys who are on the bubble with you who are proven winners and have shown lots of speed this year. I don't want to. No, I was going to be aggressive and say I got Chase Briscoe shown more speed this year than Bubba has. He hasn't, but he's equally a threat to win at this juncture as Bubba Wallace, and I don't understand. This is just very unfortunate. And that being said, we are starting to run out of time, so I will just say definitively, if you had to ask me right now, I don't think Bubba Wallace is going to make it because I do think Kyle Busch is going to win. I do think Joey Logano is going to win. And also, Matt, I want to go back to what you said. Because I was thinking before the show, who could wreck the playoffs? Yeah, I do think that's Josh Berry. I'm going to
Because that
stop
guy on the
denying that
pit
at this point.
box.
I don't outwardly think that he's going to win, but I actually do think that I think now there's two Stewart Haas drivers that if they get a winner, it'll be them. I think Josh Berry is equally as likely as Chase Briscoe, if not more likely. So those are four guys right now that are as likely to win or more likely to win than Bubba Wallace is. This is just not shaping up well for that 23 team. They need to adjust and adjust quickly.
Do I have enough time to say two quick things before time runs out?
Yes.
Okay. Also, I want to mention, because you mentioned Matt Benedetto. I didn't mention this in the Xfinity series. 7th place. What a run. Don't know how he did that in that car. I think team owners need to take note of that. I know we're very high on Matt Benedetto on the show, regardless of your opinion of him. But the other thing I want to say, and I love Bubba Wallace. Before I say this, you guys know this, regardless of the jokes I make on the show. He's my second favorite driver. I love him, and I want him to make the playoffs. That's really good for the sport, and it's great to two of my best friends love him too. That's their favorite driver. Of course, I want them in the playoffs because it'll allow them to be more immersed in the playoffs. But for me, it's put up or shut up for Bubba Wallace. I don't care about points. He has to go win a race. Because for me, you've said it so many times on the show. Oh, the team's young. The team's young. Tyler Reddick is running top 5 every single weekend, pretty much, except this week. He was slow this week. Every other Toyota, I'm not counting Legacy Motor Club. Legacy Motor Club is a freaking trash can. But Ty Gibbs, I know he hasn't gotten that win yet. He's running up front. He's leading laps. Christopher Bell leading laps. Truex Jr. is last year. He should be at the age where he's over the hill. He's leading laps, contending for a championship. Denny Hamlin, I don't even have to say it.
Yeah.
They're not leading laps. They're not running in the top 5. They're not running in the top 10. They're getting these lucky breaks to get into the top 10 every single week. And you're getting the stage points. So, by the way, you'd be like 18th or 19th in points if it wasn't for your stage points. The finishes just aren't getting it done. They have 2021 speed. I feel like Bubba has regressed as a driver, as much as I hate to say that this year. I don't see the aggressiveness or the fire in there. You got to go win a race. And it can't be at a comfortable place like Kansas or Talladega. You got to go win me in New Hampshire. You got to go win me in Nashville. You got to go win me somewhere, because that's what the greats do. And he cannot be a star driver. He's not going to get over that average to mediocre, winning at places where he's just comfortable at. We consider Jamie McMurray a mediocre driver. Well, you don't, but I know a lot of people do. And he won 8 races in his career and he won more up to this point. Bubba's got to win a race. Even if they make it on points, I don't care. You got to win a race.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. And you talk about the change in his mindset, and I think that might be the problem. I love to start the year this more collected and calculated version of Bubba Wallace we've seen, but I think Bubba has almost been cool and passive to a detriment. My entire reason for liking Bubba Wallace is I see shades of Tony Stewart in him. I see the aggression. I see the fire. And we just really haven't seen much of that this year because I do think it's a calculated effort by him to change, be more mature, be more cool, collected. And look, I think next year, like, okay, we talk about put up or shut up. We talk about prove it type years. And this, yeah, like this to me is a prove it rest of the year. But I think this is my thing. If we don't get anything going this year, we build towards 25. Bubba Wallace could maybe build some momentum with his new attitude, maybe, or Bubba can go back to doing what got him results last year and the year before, which is the mindset of screw it, I'm going to take it. I'll do anything I have to. Fighting, scratching, and clawing. I need to see him fight, scratch, and claw. He shouldn't have to. Like there have been a lot of team mishaps this year, but it's not a situation like 2022 where you can firmly blend with Bubba. Like you said, he's got to put up or shut up. It's time. It's go time, man. That being said, we thank you for watching this episode of The Shifter. Really fun race in Iowa, and we will talk to you next week after New Hampshire. Which just I'll quickly say it. Love New Hampshire so much. I'm very excited. So that being said, I've been Will.
And I've been Matt. Jeff Burton fans, get out your hats for next weekend. It's your one day of the year.
See you next week.